Welcome, everybody. My name is Kim Brand with Audubon, North Carolina, and we have nearly 600 people who registered tonight. So it's going to take a couple minutes for everybody to join and for us to broadcast this webinar on Facebook Live, so even more people can join us. So just sit tight and we will get started right about 7 o'clock. Also, heads up, we are recording tonight. Your videos and audio will be off, and we'll take all questions through the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. And you can type your questions in there as we go, as well as going ahead and letting us know where you're watching from tonight. It's going to take all of us all across North Carolina to get the job done on the North Carolina Bird Atlas. So please let us know where you're joining from. Nice, we got mountains to coast already. Lots in Durham. Great question from Will. Will, I would say type your questions in as they occur to you. I'm going to be trying to keep track of those and then reading them to the panelists midway through the hour tonight. So type them in as you think of them. You may have to re-up them if I miss them. Hi, friends. I wish we could see everybody's faces. Very exciting. Welcome, everyone. Folks are still joining, and we're still in the process of going live on Facebook. But we're going to get you North Carolina Bird Atlas 101 in just a couple minutes. Wow, fantastic, fantastic geographic representation. I know that the leaders of the North Carolina Bird Atlas are pretty excited to see that. Thank you, Pam. I love my warblers. Great, thank you. Those of you who just joined, please keep letting us know where you're joining from. Makes everyone happy to see the excitement around the North Carolina Bird Atlas. I feel like there's a ton of pent-up demand. So thank you all for joining. Fantastic. Looks like everybody knows how to use the chat box as well. This is wonderful. Yeah, and so that's a note about, since we're going to be relying so much on the chat box tonight, you have the choice of panelists and attendees. That way everybody will see your question when you type it in. That is great. We encourage that. You also can write only to panelists if you prefer. It's just a drop-down option. Great. Sounds like we've got about 20 more seconds before we are live on Facebook, and we'll begin our official program tonight. Fantastic. Great. All right. We are now live on Facebook. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to North Carolina Bird Atlas 101. My name is Kim Brand. I am the Engagement Director for Audubon, North Carolina, and we are proud partners in the North Carolina Bird Atlas. A couple bookkeeping things. We are recording this webinar. We'll be sharing the link tomorrow with all nearly 600 people who registered tonight. And we're also, the recording to tonight's webinar will also live on the Audubon North Carolina Facebook page as well. And people will be joining us on Facebook too. As I said, we are, Audubon North Carolina is a proud partner in the North Carolina Bird Atlas, and we're really excited to host North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission staff and Bird Atlas Steering Committee members tonight to give you Bird Atlas 101, let you know why it's important and how you can get started tonight, tomorrow, as soon as you're ready. And we're also going to have plenty of time for your questions tonight. So you can type those into the chat box as we go. You can also wait till that Q&A session begins and then type them in then. Before I hand it over to Scott Anderson of the Wildlife Resources Commission, I just want to note what perfect timing it is to kick off a bird atlas right now as we're emerging from the pandemic. The sun is returning. Some owlets are hatching in places across the state. Bluebirds are looking for places to make new nests and incubate eggs. And then all these arrivals that we wait for it seems like half the year, the wood thrushes to return, the chimney swifts to come back, ruby-throated hummingbirds to return in areas across the state, especially where I am in the Piedmont, eagerly anticipate that. So it's a time of hope and it's a time of reconnection. And so I encourage you to learn what to do to get involved in the Atlas tonight. Get yourself started and then invite somebody to join you, whether it's an old friend you want to reconnect with, maybe somebody you've met only on Zoom. I have a long list of those people who I really want to see in real life and enjoy the wonder of birds together in real life. And it's also a great way to grow your Audubon chapter, your bird club, your Audubon campus club, your wildlife club, whatever group you're in. You know, the Bird Atlas is a great way to bring new people in and just open the doors really wide on birding and community science. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Scott Anderson, a bird conservation biologist with the Wildlife Resources Commission, to join us on screen. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and stop my video and invite you to share your screen. Take it away. And everybody keep the questions coming, and I'll read those to Scott and the rest of the crew later on.
All right, just a screen check. Can you see my screen without anything in front of it?
Looks great, Scott.
Perfect. Great. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. It's welcome to our first webinar for the North Carolina Bird Atlas. We're so excited. So tonight we're just going to give you the basics of the North Carolina Bird Atlas, why we're embarking on this huge 5-year community science project and how to participate. There's clearly a lot of details that can be involved in an atlas, and so we just kind of want to give you the overview of what it takes to participate and what it's like. So, and first I want to say, well, I'm the one giving this presentation today. I'm just one part of a large effort that we're starting on today, and that got us here from the year of planning to get here. And I want to thank Audubon North Carolina for hosting this webinar, especially Kim and Ben Graham, who are sort of behind the scenes and making this happen. Audubon has been a really strong participant in planning efforts this past year, so we really thank them for their work. It's been awesome. And second, I want to introduce 3 folks. I'll just mention their names now, but they'll be joining us for the question and answer session after this presentation. And that's John Carpenter. He's a land bird biologist and chair of the steering committee of the North Carolina Bird Atlas. Chris Smith, who is our Atlas coordinator, and he is the Citizen Science Program Manager with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. We'll also have Elsa Chen, who's a coastal land bird technician from the commission, and she's the one with the most recent and probably best Atlas experience. So it's good to have her on here. And Curtis Smalling, who's the conservation director at Audubon, North Carolina. So it won't just be me answering questions, fortunately. And one last item I wanted to mention before I sort of get started today is that I want to highlight our tagline, and that's people count and birds count. And we mean this in every sense, and we're committed to lowering the barriers to participation in the Atlas while recognizing that we don't represent the perspectives of all North Carolinians and all bird watchers in North Carolina. So we welcome partnership opportunities and other ways to get the Atlas to as many folks as possible. All right. So. Oh, and I will also mention, so we have a website that's up and running now. Everything we talk about today will be available on ncbirdatlas.org. It's our portal in Ebird, and we'll keep, it's sort of our own little corner of Ebird, and we'll keep adding to it as we get closer and closer to the breeding season. And most of this material will be under the essentials.ncbirdatlas.org. So you can find that there. All right. And I also want to talk a little give a shout out to our steering committee members. Other than the people I've already introduced, there's also John Hammond with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Dr. Joe Poston from Catawba College, Dr. Jamie Rotenberg from University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and Nathan Tarr, who's with the USGS Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Unit at NC State. So with that, I am sure that you guys all know that North Carolina is a super diverse state. We have mountains to coast, and that, coastal beaches, wetlands, precosins, spruce fir forest, longleaf pine habitats. And that habitat diversity means that our state hosts over 470 bird species each year during either the breeding season, migration, or wintering. And that's the first point I want to make. This is not a breeding bird atlas. This is a bird atlas. So we're collecting data not only in the breeding season, but also in wintering season. So anytime you go out and collect information or do birding, you can be collecting data for the atlas. But so as bird biologists, we're sort of saddled with conservation of all of these bird species, and it's difficult to have enough resources to address all of the issues needed. And so we have at the commission, we have a wildlife action plan that was passed in 2015, and we identified 78 bird species with significant knowledge gaps. And we're hoping that an atlas kind of effort, this huge effort that's high resolution, will help us fill in a lot of those knowledge gaps for those species. We've obviously answered a lot of these questions for a handful of species, ones that you're probably familiar with: peregrine falcon, golden-winged warbler, American black duck. It's taken a lot of work to collect the information needed to target conservation for those species. And on top of that, the recent research, this 2019 paper in Science, suggests that many of our sort of lower priority species are also declining at alarming rates, and found that over almost 3 billion birds, fewer birds are on the landscape than there were in 1970. You may have heard about this paper before, and it ties in well with the atlas because we've already had indications that the decline of wood thrush based on other data in North Carolina as an example, but we don't know much about declines of other species that seem to be indicated in some of these data, like dark-eyed juncos and white-throated sparrows. And I like to think of these long-term efforts like the Christmas bird count and the breeding bird survey are like marathon runs, and we're getting good long-term trends. And the atlas is more like a 5-year sprint. We're trying to get a lot of information over a very short period of time. So we're hoping that this atlas will provide sort of a higher resolution picture of most of the birds that breed and winter here in North Carolina. And in addition to that, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the 2019 Audubon Survival by Degrees report that modeled the potential shift in bird ranges under different climate scenarios. And so we're hoping that Atlas data can put more information behind these kinds of modeling efforts like this and help improve future models and help us target conservation better. As another advantage, North Carolina is one of the birderest states in the nation, I guess, if that's a word. But it's we're like number 10 in species diversity, but we have like 32 people per capita who that doesn't make sense, observations per capita, and 18 observers per square mile in North Carolina. So we've got a lot of people here. And how do we know this? Mostly through an app called Ebird. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with Ebird, but if you're not, it's an online, an established online platform for collecting bird sightings. It's free to use. It provides a well-organized way to collect bird data and allows you to log each bird sighting. You can attach photos and audio recordings. You can record behaviors of birds you'll see, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Ebird information can be entered via the web or through an iPhone or an Android app. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to use Ebird because it is our main platform for collecting data through for the Atlas. So all data will have to be submitted through Ebird. And there are already people, thousands of people using Ebird in North Carolina every year. This map from 2019 shows every checklist that was submitted during that year. And you know, why do an atlas if we have so many checklists, right? Well, it's not just the hours logged, it's not, you know, just all the hours that are logged, but you may notice some patterns here that there's more, this is more of a map of where birders are and less of a map of where the birds are, because we tend to bird around where we live, right? So all the urban areas here have really high density of checklists. You can also see that people tend to bird along roads. I'm hoping they're either passengers or stopping to record these observations, but the point being that like it's not an even spread of sampling across the state. And so in an atlas, we're hoping to distribute this effort a bit more evenly throughout the state. And we're doing that using what we're calling priority blocks. So we've spread these blocks evenly throughout the state. And you can see each of these red blocks represents one of these priority blocks. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, and we have an interactive version of this map on our website also. And we want people to collect all species in every habitat that occurs in each one of these priority blocks. So, all right, so at this point, you're probably sitting there thinking, all right, well, let's get to it. You know, stop talking about it, tell me how to do this. So we've received tons of feedback already and eagerness for folks to participate in the Atlas. And it's frankly been a little bit overwhelming, the response we're getting. So tonight I'm going to touch on using Ebird, where to go to Atlas, and how to enter data. So three things to consider. As I mentioned before, all the data will be submitted through Ebird, but in order for us to track the data that you're collecting, you need to do it through the Ebird portal that's set up for the North Carolina Bird Atlas. This can be done either on the website or on your smartphone. And this screenshot sort of shows you the path for doing it with an Apple iPhone. Clicking on the settings button at the bottom is the first step, and then clicking on the settings and account button. And then in the next screen, you'll have at the bottom, there'll be a portal choice, and you can select from the whole list of portals there. So unless you're going to New Zealand, you probably want to choose the North Carolina Bird Atlas one. New Zealand's actually in the midst of their Bird Atlas right now. So by going through these steps, you'll be able to see how you'll be able to select the data so that your data gets submitted to the Bird Atlas. And there's also, it's very similar for Android, and you can go on our website and there's a set of screenshots like this for Android, but it's almost identical. And once you choose this portal, it'll remain that for subsequent checklists that you create on your app. So unless you change it back to Ebird, you can always change it back if you want. And also, regardless of the portal that you use, you'll be able to see and review all of your checklists just like you can now using Ebird if you're already using Ebird. So couple little tips there. All right, next screen. Where to go? As I mentioned before, we've got this priority block system. We'll gladly accept any observations in North Carolina, but we're encouraging folks to record birds in priority blocks. And let's dig a little bit deeper into that. Our goal is to have every block having a primary atlaser. And what that means is that person is ensuring that that priority block meets all the requirements to be considered complete for that block. And I'll talk about that in a second. And do want to note here that that means that other birders can submit observations of the block. You're not really the owner of the block. You're just sort of the person who's sort of taken on the responsibility of making sure you check all the boxes to get that priority block completed. But anybody can submit data to any block. So there's no restrictions on who can enter data. You see that URL at the bottom says blocksignup.ncbirdatlas.org. That's the URL for signing up for a block. Don't go there now, though. It's not active yet. We're going to activate it tomorrow morning, and I'll show you what that'll look like. What does it mean to complete a block? Again, we're doing it year round, both breeding and wintering season. So in the breeding season, we need at least 20 hours of surveying in a block, 2 nocturnal visits. 50% of those birds detected are confirmed as breeders. So those are these are all sort of guidelines. So all accessible habitats within that block need to be surveyed. So you want to try and hit the variety that's in there. Same with the wintering season, 2 nocturnal visits, all accessible habitats, but we're only requiring 10 hours of surveying. Again, these are kind of guidelines, and these are guidelines for these blocks, and we want to make sure that blocks are, in order to figure out whether blocks are complete, it's not an automated process. So don't complete your 20th hour in your priority block and look the next day to see if it's done. We'll be reviewing these and sort of making sure that we feel like we've covered every block. So we're going to be reviewing all 937 blocks throughout the state to make sure that they're fulfilling these guidelines. We just want to make sure we're getting a representative sample from every block. So if you go to that URL, you'll see an interactive map like this. You'll get this sort of splash screen up first and check the terms and conditions and click on OK. And you'll get this interactive map. You can zoom in, you can pan around, you know, like you're all used to on Google Maps. Right now, you can see that these are all highlighted in blue. That means these are all available blocks on the map. It'll look a little bit different tomorrow. We've marked some in gray. That means they're restricted, so you can't sign up as a priority atlaser or a primary atlaser for those blocks because they're in areas that have restricted land like Fort Bragg or some of the other military reservations. So we've kind of blocked those from being able to adopt those. Any ones that are highlighted in red have already been adopted. So when you zoom in on the map, here's an example, and you click on a block, you'll see a little pop-up like this. And it says status available and sign up. And that sign up will be a link. If you click on that link, you'll be able to, it'll take you to a form to complete and to adopt the block. But before we leave this page, I kind of want to show you another feature on here. We have this list of maps. We have a topo map and a street map and a satellite map. Those are all PDFs that you can download, print out. You can put them on your phone. You can do all of those things to help you navigate in the field. You want to be able to know where the bounds of the block are in the field. So this is what the topo looks like. This is what the street map looks like. And this is what the aerial photo looks like. Yeah, I see in the chat, each block is about 10 square miles. These are not small areas. You can kind of see from this aerial photo, it's a lot of land to cover. Some are much more urban and some are much more rural than others. So some are no roads at all, and some of them are like downtown Raleigh. So there's quite a variety in the blocks. I'll also mention these PDFs you can download onto your phone and download an app called Avenza, and it will actually show your location on the PDF in Avenza. So it's another feature that we need to, we'll have more on the website. We don't have that up quite yet, but we'll have more on the website about how to do that. So once you click on that sign up link, it'll bring you to a Google form that looks like this. And you'll just complete this Google form. Just check off that you agree to meet all those requirements and understand that other birders are allowed. And then the drop-down box at the bottom of the screen there allows you to select the block that you're choosing. That list will be only the list of available blocks. And I will mention now, we've got a little bit of a time lag between a block being visible on the map as being taken and selecting it in this map. So you might get to this map and it says it's available on the interactive map, and you might get to this form and it may not be in the list. And it's probably just that time lag. We'll try and get that updated every evening, so just to help reduce confusion, but the best we can do at this point. All right, and how to enter data. So very high level how to enter data, and then I'll show you a little bit of a demo. I'm gonna sort of test out some technology here. Basically, we want you to record behaviors in the breeding season or whenever you see them. Since birds have wide ranges of breeding seasons, whenever you see a breeding bird behavior, we'll want you to record those, and we'll talk a little bit about those in a second. we want you to select your actual location and not the hotspot. We also want you to try and keep your checklist under a mile long and under an hour. And of course, we want you to stay within inside a block and submit complete checklists. So let me walk you through what that looks like. I'm sure this will be very familiar to those of you who use Ebird already, but I'll just see if I can make this work now. Hold on just a second. It takes a couple steps, but it's pretty cool when you can share the whole screen there. All right, here's what it looks like on the phone. Hopefully everybody can see that. This is the opening screen you see when you open up the Ebird app. And it gives you the date, gives you the start time. You want to keep that record track checked because we can download that later at the end of the atlas and do some more advanced analysis about where you're collecting your bird data. We're going to click on Start Checklist. And if you haven't used Ebird before, it basically has a list of birds that are likely to be seen around where you are. There's a little indicator next to some of these that tell you how common or uncommon that species is. At the top, it's showing you how long your checklist is going, and then on the right, how long you're walking. I'm not going to walk very long because I'm stuck in front of my computer, right? So I'm just going to do an example here. At the very top, up here, it says number of species, name, and code, and I can click in there. And you first start with the number that you see. So I'm going to type in 1, and I saw a bluebird. So I have a bluebird box out front. I saw a bluebird there on the nest, and I checked the box. So it's got a nest there. So what I'm going to put in here is bluebird. So I can type in the 4-letter code if I know the 4-letter code, but I'm just going to start typing in bluebird. And you'll notice as you start typing, it narrows down your list. And there I see that Eastern bluebird is about 3 or 4 down in the list. I'm going to click on that. It highlights the bird and puts it at the top. And then puts the number 1 to the left of it. And now I want to record the behavior because remember we told you we wanted you to collect behavior. So if I tap on that bluebird thing again, you'll see that I can change the number of birds. I can also click on the Merlin bird ID if you want a little help making sure that your identification is correct. And then there's a selection for breeding code down there, and I'm going to click on that. And there are 24 breeding codes. Now it sounds a little bit daunting, but we have some great materials on the website with information about each one of the breeding codes. There's even a little quiz on there that we stole from the New York Bird Atlas because they're doing theirs now. And then we'll help answer. I see some questions in there also about behavior codes. So I think this is going to be one of the harder things. This is an easy one though. It's my bluebird box. So it's got a nest. It's got 6 eggs. So they're already on their way. So I've selected that. And now I'm done with this observation. Just as a side note, if I want to add another bluebird, I could type in 1 and then bluebird again or EABL, and it would add it, and it would say 2 Eastern bluebirds there. All right, so I've collected my data. I've recorded all the birds I've seen. I'm going to click on stop, and I'm going to choose stop track, and that's going to stop everything. And then it has my date. It calculates how far I've walked, which is nothing. And you'll notice at the top it says choose a location. I'm going to tap on that, and it's going to give me a whole bunch of choices. But I'm going to go to the map and just use that location because that will use the actual latitude, longitude for my location. So I'm going to choose that one. And then another thing I want to note is the complete checklist. We prefer you to submit complete checklists. You don't have to, but we prefer you to. And that just means that you've identified everything that you were able to. If you saw a bird flit by and you couldn't really tell whether that bird was whatever it was, what kind of warbler it was, and you don't put it down, you want to always make sure that you are positive with your identifications that you log in here. So if you were able to whatever birds you're able to identify, you want to make sure you'd be able to click yes on there. Just make sure you put it, if you know you saw a bluebird and you didn't put it in there, then you'd have to click no. So you can always go back actually and revise these checklists either in the app or online So there's always that option to go back and change them. And then once I'm done with that, I just click on submit and I'm done. All right, that was a quick run through, and I know that was pretty much like a fire hose, but I'm going to jump back to here. I only have one more slide, I believe, and then we'll get to questions. All right, so we do have split the state into regions, and that way we can sort of manage folks better. We're actually asking for folks to volunteer to be on a regional coordinator team. So we'll have a team of folks in each region who are volunteers, and those folks will help track these priority block signups. They want to make sure that they're all get adopted. They want to recruit new atlasers and sort of be the point of contact for their region. Some folks have already applied for this, and we really appreciate that. We're still reviewing all the folks who have written into it. If you're interested, that URL at the bottom, regionalteams.ncbirdatlas.org, will take you to a form where you can fill out some information and tell you a little bit more about what it means to be on an Atlas coordinator team. All right, that's it. That's our North Carolina Bird Atlas 101, and I'm sure you've got tons of questions. I've seen the chat sort of blowing up, and so you feel free to check out our website or email us as a coordinator. And so thank you all. And again, thank you, Audubon, for hosting this.
Thank you, Scott. That was a wonderful tour. Quick tour of the North Carolina Bird Atlas. Wow, some really great questions from the audience tonight. I'd like to invite the rest of the panelists to turn on your cameras, and I've done my best to keep up with the fantastic questions, and I'm just gonna read them out, and Scott, let you kind of dole them out or just let people speak up. And everybody keep typing in your questions. We have a great amount of time, and this is also how the team figures out what does everybody need to know. So a bunch of questions around the blocks. We already noted the size of each block is about 10 square miles. Can a person sign up for more than one block? So a very motivated birder, can they sign up for more than one block to be the lead?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sign up for whatever you think you can complete. And one thing I didn't mention is that, we prefer that you complete the block within a year or two, but it can be stretched out. That 20 hours in a block doesn't mean 20 hours in 1 year. It means 20 hours over the span of the Atlas. So if you're all worried about 20 hours, oh my God, in 1 year. So you can do that. You can spread that out over a year or two.
Thanks, Scott. And then when people are thinking about signing up for blocks, is there any preference for local birders, say an area like the Outer Banks that's just popular and everybody visits it from across the state? Are you considering where the birder who wants to claim the block lives?
No, we're not really. It's sort of a first come, first serve. And I'll just, highlight that anybody can submit data to any block. There's no restrictions on that at all. So even if you're not the priority, the primary atlaser for that block, anybody can put data in it.
Great.
And Kim, I would just add, really that's, by adopting your block, you're kind of committing to make sure that checklist of criteria are met to be complete. So if you're in a block that doesn't get much birding, you're basically committing to say, I'll make sure this block gets completed, whether by me or somebody else or whatever, but it doesn't keep anybody else from birding that block at all.
Good to know. Okay, great.
I'll quickly add too that while you're sort of reviewing the map and trying to choose a block to adopt, a lot of the blocks near cities will probably get a lot of attention quickly. So, try and just keep some other people in mind too. Don't gobble up, 30 blocks around Raleigh or something. But there is technically no limit either to how many you can adopt.
Great, good to know. Thank you. A couple questions came in just around, the app, the Ebird app for using data. One person asked, the Ebird app, not the Audubon app, question mark. Somebody who's a fan of the Audubon app want to answer that one? Anybody? People need to use it. Yeah, go ahead, Curtis. Thank you.
Yeah, people do need to use the North Carolina Atlas portal. And that's true. And there have been questions in the chat as well about some other, even Cornell products, right? Like Project Nestwatch and others, really set up to do different things, collect data, at times collect a lot more data than the Atlas needs, right? So if you're going to contribute to the Atlas, use the North Carolina portal. Now, as Scott said, there's links to the Merlin app. Use your apps to learn. We really want this to be a really big tent and bring a lot of people into birding. We know a lot of people have, their checklists went up by 20% just last year, kind of nationwide with Ebird. So a lot of people are interested and may need that extra support. So the Audubon app, the Ebird, the embedded Ebird helps, the Merlin app, all those things will help you identify correctly and contribute. So whatever you're comfortable with, but do log into Ebird so we can capture that data.
Great. So the Ebird app from Cornell. We got a lot of questions about the portal. When you choose that North Carolina Bird Atlas portal on your Ebird app on your mobile device, will it stick? Do you need to turn it off if you cross the border into South Carolina? What's the lay of the land around that?
Yeah,
So-
I could take that. It will stick. So yeah, it'll stay on that portal. If you cross a border, it doesn't really matter all that much. It'll still be in your checklist. You'll be able to see it like every other checklist. You might want to change it. You can always change it after you submit a checklist. Also, you can go online and look at the portal online, or your Ebird checklist online, and change it from the North Carolina Atlas to something else. So I've actually already done that for a list or two that I've collected. So John, did you have something else to add, or?
No, I guess I was going to say, the risk with you changing it back and forth is that you may forget to change it back to the NC Bird Atlas. So I think we would rather you keep it there, and then we can filter out data if you take a trip out of state later. So, but if you've got a great memory and can remember to keep switching back and forth, then go for it.
Great. How far, so folks want to know the date that the Bird Atlas officially started, how far back they can add data, their recent birding data, how far can they add that back? Can they add that to the portal? And what if they didn't get breeding codes? Does it still count?
Yeah, so we're encouraging people to, anytime you observe anything related to breeding, record what you see. I think is our primary message. But even just documenting the presence of something is still worthwhile, especially during the winter months when you're not going to see a whole lot of breeding. There are some species that do breed in the winter, so if you see those exhibiting behaviors, then definitely record that. But otherwise, if it's if you forget to record a behavior, that's okay too. We'll still take that. The Atlas officially it officially starts now as far as sort of backdating data and trips. I'm not sure exactly the process of how to do that, but I think just to save yourself some trouble, I say let's start it tomorrow morning, and we'll get everything in there. Unless you've already found the portal and have been putting data in there, then it's already in there. But I guess follow up with us on that one. We may have to sort of check with the folks at Cornell to see how to get older checklists into this portal.
Okay, great. Great. So a question along those same lines, are you saying that Ebird checklists that use this is along the same lines of data submission, but if someone did use a hotspot like I did on Sunday in a block, but before I got your briefing on Monday, if you used a hotspot, does it still count?
Yeah, I think, we don't encourage that because we want to try and tie all these checklists to as specific as of a location as we can, so we can do some more comprehensive analysis with the data. It depends on several things. I think where the hotspot is, if it happens to fall maybe right in the middle of a block, then we'll have more confidence that that data can be tied to that block. But if it's the hotspot is a park or a refuge that spans multiple blocks, we won't know where to put that, within the
As
block.
many
So
do.
some of that data, some of those checklists might get sort of scaled up to a much higher level to the county or something, which again, this is all valuable and we want you to participate, but we'll keep emphasizing and stressing and the idea of trying to use your, if you have the phone, it's got a GPS in it, it'll tell you where you are, and just sort of to try and default to that, that location versus using hotspots.
Great. And then what if you are in a block that doesn't have very good cell coverage, so you don't really record a good track? What happens to your data?
We were having this conversation earlier. I think most modern cell phones now have, they communicate with satellites, so they'll be able to tell you where you are and where you've gone. You'll have to wait till you get back to cell coverage to maybe officially submit the checklist up into the cloud or up to Ebird. But your phone and the app should be able to capture your location and where you traveled, even without cell coverage. So
Okay,
it should be
great.
good. I mean, if it's a much older phone, then that might, it may be more of an issue. But I'm thinking most newer phones will get you the details you need.
And
And
just to add, there's a good kind of help page on Ebird just about using the app in places without cell signal. You can explore some of the FAQs for Ebird and just kind of search that no cell signal, and it'll give you a quick rundown on how much it will capture and what you need to do when you get back into range, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and one thing I'll also add on to that is that, I didn't mention that, Ebird's being used by a whole bunch of people and not just outside of the Atlas. And so there's tons of other resources on on Ebird's website about how to use the app. And I really highly recommend, if you've never used it before, to look at the Ebird Essentials course. It's a free course. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes or something. It's a video. It does a really good job of helping you understand how the data is collected and used, and what are good practices in terms of, like, we want to, even if you don't know exactly how many birds there are, we want you to estimate rather than put like X or, there were a bunch of those birds, things like that people can, that Ebird Essentials course is good at sort of elucidating. So.
And lastly, quickly about cell coverage in your phone. We want people to be as safe as possible too when they're going out, especially in places they're not familiar with. So, certainly if the battery dies, it's not going to serve you much of a purpose. So, plan your trip, make sure you let people know where you're going. You'll hopefully have a sense of where you are. Safety again is the most important thing, but, once you get back home, you can pick a location on a map, within the Ebird, web browser to give us a more general location, but still accurate. So just keep that in mind.
Great. One more sort of location related question. What recommendations do you have for accessing private property to do bird atlas surveys?
Well, we certainly don't want to encourage trespassing at all. So the web map that Scott showed you, there is a layer on there you can turn on and off. You have to zoom in and get pretty close to the block, but it'll show you, ownership and some parcels. So, you're gonna have to bird from the road a lot of times. If you see a homeowner out and want to strike up a conversation, tell them about the Atlas, we encourage you to do that. You can write letters to the owners. A lot of times you can get address information from that parcel layer on the map. So there are some options, but we definitely want you to have permission to be going on property and not trespassing.
Great. And that kind of ties to another question that came in. Basically, what can I do to help the Bird Atlas effort besides birding? And I know that when I was looking at the priority maps, I noticed, private property where I know the owner, and that's something cool that individuals can do, that Audubon chapters and bird clubs can do, is reach out to those folks, and they might be delighted to have birders on their property with permission. So I love that.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways for people to join in the Bird Atlas. They don't have to be birding and atlasing the entire time. We do have some people that have reached out with some disabilities, and they want to just use some of the things that they have around their house. If they're using some of their bird feeders and they're tracking that information. They also have people where we can reach out to, and they have contacts for land owners, so we can utilize that and get groups to participate. We do have a fundraising piece where they can help donate to the Bird Atlas. There is a Zazzle account where they could purchase some NC Bird Atlas paraphernalia, so some great t-shirts and some water containers and that kind of thing. So they all contribute. There's lots of ways to be involved in the Bird Atlas.
Great, thank you. Pam asked a really juicy bird question that I was also wondering about on Sunday when I was trying to do this. So what if you see some bluebirds building a nest, and you see other bluebirds on a nest with eggs, and they're both in your same, less than 1 hour, less than 1 mile survey within a block? How do you put that in? How do you report that? Because you can only choose one breeding code per species, right?
I'm gonna let Elsa answer that one. She's game.
Sure. So the list of breeding codes is available on the website, and I think the next webinar will go more into that. But what we really want people to do is to record the highest breeding code for that species for that visit in that block. So if you see two different things, they're building a nest or they're sitting on a nest, depending on, there's 4 basic categories: observed, possible, probable, and confirmed. And you just want to go with the highest code in those broader categories.
So it's more important to confirm the breeding behavior than to know how many pairs of birding.
Yeah, there's no way for you to, in Ebird, to say there are 7 breeding pairs of bluebirds. It's more just about there are bluebirds and they are at this stage of breeding. And next time, if you see that same stage, you still want to put that same code so that we can get a good phenology of how long the birds are breeding.
Great, thank you, Elsa. Elsa, will you remind us, I'm not sure if Scott said this, but are we the last state in the Southeast to do a breeding bird atlas? Or sorry, bird atlas?
No, not at all. I am just a recent graduate from VCU. I got my MS there, and last summer I worked on the Virginia breeding bird atlas. So I was helping them finish up, and I got this job with the commission, and you guys are starting one. So it's really cool to me to get both tail ends of that kind of process.
Nice, thank you, Elsa. And audience questions about the Virginia Bird Atlas are fair game. Great. There are lots of questions. I'm not sure we're going to quite get to them all, but I want to ask sort of a meta question, which is, what's the best way to keep the conversation going? How should people ask questions going forward? What's the best way to do that?
That's a really good question. I mean, we do have an email for the coordinator, but like I mentioned before, we're going to have this network of regional coordinators, and so that we're going to really rely on those folks, because they'll be able to, those teams in each region will be able to respond a lot faster to folks in their region, because they've got a smaller chunk of the state. So we're hoping to ramp those up. If you want to keep in the know, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can just go on there, and we'll be really careful not to spam you a whole bunch. We'll put out the meaningful information that you need to know about. When we get good chunks of data and good chunks of information to send out to you, we'll be sure to put that out there. So yeah, sign up for the newsletter, and then the regional coordinators will be your points of contact when that becomes available.
all that information at ncbirdatlas.org. And there will be a lot of frequently asked questions, and we'll put some of these answers and responses to that with some links that go back to more information. So we will make sure you have everything that you need. And if you can't find it, just send it to the coordinator at ncbirdatlas.org, which is the one of the three of us mainly will respond back to that, and we will make sure we get that information out and available to you.
Great. And then you folks, when you registered for this webinar, you also had an opportunity to click a checkbox that said, send me updates from the Bird Atlas. And so that will also be, you're signed up. Great. A great clarifying question. I'm just going to read it. I'm still unclear. Should all my North Carolina birding be done through the Atlas portal, even if I'm not in a priority block? Yes, look at this. Yes, it does. A definite yes. Okay, good.
I'll respond at the same
Please.
time. Yes, all information is wonderful for us.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do have some very, basic priority questions that we hope to answer with the Atlas, like distributions of birds and abundance of birds. And some of these questions we'll be able to answer with the amount of data we're getting, and some we won't. But there's always the chance to, this data will live, it'll be public data set. So other researchers can use it in the future. And, Elsa mentioned, phenology studies. I mentioned the survival by degrees, like future studies could be using this data. So there's certainly, if you're out there birding and you're already collecting for the Atlas in one area, you might as well be collecting it in the other for the hope that we could use it in the future or a more detailed study than we anticipated.
That is awesome. Do feeder watch data go into the Bird Atlas? Forgive me if okay, different platform.
No, feeder watch, nest watch, all of those are separate. Yeah, like Curtis said before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But then again, of course, people can report data through the Bird Atlas portal and Ebird from their feeder, and that's great, right?
Yes. Right.
And I would say the same would go for, because we've gotten a lot of questions about bluebird trails, brown-headed nuthatch box trails, that kind of stuff. That data can still be submitted through the Ebird portal, as Scott was showing, and there'll be more guidance on this as you attend some other trainings and stuff. But that stationary option, if it's just your box in your backyard and you're checking on it that day, and you're not submitting a complete checklist, just a stationary list, one bird, one nest. There are ways to report that in Ebird. Can I answer one while I'm off mute?
Sure, Curtis.
I wanted to, just somebody had put in here, and I think I read something into it, but I wanted to comment on it. So somebody said responsibilities of a block atlas or ? So to me, that there's two different things, right? It's the responsibilities like making sure that block gets completed over the duration of the project. But there's also, and on the website, and Chris and John and Scott can speak to this too, we do have kind of a responsibilities in terms of like guidance and birder ethics, like what we want people to do and not do as part of the Atlas project. And so to me, that question kind of triggered that. Just know that the outreach committee has spent a lot of time thinking about this, right? About encouraging new birders, but also having kind of, an ethical approach to it. And I would encourage everybody to dive into the website and take a look at that. It's probably familiar to a lot of birders who've been birding for a long time, but for a lot of new folks, it may not be completely intuitive. So make sure you check that out as well on the website.
Great. One last question, and then I'll turn it over to Chris for what people can expect next. But why do you have to enter the portal? Why doesn't all that data that's collected in Ebird in North Carolina this year count for the Bird Atlas?
Who wants this one? I'll try. If you accidentally submit something to just the generic Ebird portal, we'll still be able to go out and kind of harvest that and bring it into the NC portal. But having everything in one place allows us to display the effort map in Ebird that kind of gives an almost near real time. I mean, there's there's some delay, but people can see how we're progressing. They can see where, what blocks are not getting any coverage, and it could encourage them to go out and survey those areas. So that's all a big benefit of having a dedicated data portal, and probably the biggest one. And also just we've been able to coordinate and discuss a lot of topics with the developers and people who lead Ebird to answer all the questions that we have and will continue to. So there's that level of support also by having our own portal.
Great.
I will say, I'll add to that, it does help us with data collection. It's all going to be more in one location. But we are also looking at a $2 million cost to create this bird atlas over the next 5 years. By utilizing our own portal, people that are entering their data and tracking their time and putting in hours actually helps us pay for some of the bird atlas. Not to get too complicated, but we use federal funds. Our state has to match those federal funds, and we can do that with in-kind support. So just by atlasing, you are helping to pay for the bird atlas because we use your time as volunteer time, as in-kind for federal funds. So it does help.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Chris. I want to remind everybody we'll be sending you and everyone who registered an email tomorrow with a link to the recording and the websites mentioned today, and just some great sort of go-to information for you. And watch for more programming from Audubon and probably all the partners over these 5 years. And then Chris, what else do people need to know before signing off tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Your participation in our workshop tonight is just the first page in our bird atlas. It is a 5-year project that we would not be able to complete without all of you helping. So again, thank you for that. There was a lot of information that was thrown out. So as Kim mentioned, there will be an email tomorrow. So look for that email. There will be lots of links for references, linking to tonight's recording, the priority blocks page, the ncbirdatlas.org website with a link. It help you sign up for the newsletter. But if you got anything from tonight, make sure you go in and please select the North Carolina Bird Atlas portal in Ebird. That helps us out tremendously. And I cannot thank you enough for contributing your time to the North Carolina Bird Atlas. Any questions, again, you can link to us through ncbirdatlas.org or coordinator@ncbirdatlas.org. And Kim, thank you for you and your team and Audubon, North Carolina for hosting our webinar tonight. So I just want to say again, thank you, stay safe, and I hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you, Chris. My pleasure, and Ben's and Curtis's too. So just thank you all. We're so psyched to get going. Everybody, will keep it open for another minute or so for thank yous, and also let us know, how excited are you to Atlas now that that's a verb in North Carolina. Great. Yeah, see lots of excitement coming through. It's awesome. Yay, we're gonna get this done. Great coverage across the state tonight. Great. All right.
I'll add my voice of
Yeah, please do, Curtis.
I just found out today that a priority block
Curtis is frozen for me. Oh, there you are.
My hat.
Curtis, what did you just say? Your house is in a priority block? I'm so glad Curtis's internet was perfect all night till now. All right, I think that we're going to be left hanging. Curtis, send us a chat real quick. Inquiring minds want to know. I will say here in Forsyth County, some of my favorite places are in blocks. Renolda Gardens is in a block, along with the whole campus of Wake Forest University, part of historic Bethabara Park, big chunk of Tanglewood Park. Super excited about that. And then I'm going to be challenging myself to go south over the county line where I don't usually go to the nearest block and just scope it out.
Mount Mitchell, Biltmore Estate. Yeah.
Governor's Mansion. Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's a wrap. Thanks, everybody. You guys, this is going to be a blast.